Illinois basketball is on quite a recruiting roll. So let's talk about another kind of big time commitment, shall we? And another one from a Clark brother. Man, this relationship between Tim Anderson and the Clark family is paying off. I'm Jeremy Werner. He's Joey Wagner. Welcome into the Illini Inquirer podcast. We don't have Derek Piper on this one. Baby Piper's not arrived as of yet, Joey, but we don't want Derek in a podcast when his wife is like, oh, we got to go to the hospital. So we'll let him take this one off.
We only want him to do that if he's podcasting from the hospital. We don't want this at home. We need this at the hospital for him to podcast. But pins and needles, man. I'm excited for him. Yeah,
I can't wait for Baby Piper to arrive. And good luck to Haley and Derek through all of that. But we got some news to talk about here, Joey. An arrival of Baby Clark to Illinois basketball here is Skyy. He goes by Zizi, it appears, commits to Illinois. And basically, it sounds like he told Travis Branham, he's wanted to do this for a while, but he wanted his brother to go ahead and be the first one to commit. But two Clark brothers joining the program this month. What a big coup for Illinois to get both these guys. We don't know as much about Zizi as a prospect, obviously, because he's younger, but he's got offers from Kansas, Vanderbilt, Arizona State, DePaul, Creighton, a nice slew, Washington, of high major offers this early in the process. I know you talked with Zizi in person, but it certainly looks the part of a high major guard that, if you want to focus on this, Joey, you think of, you lose Trent Frazier, you lose DeMonte Williams, you lose Ayo Dosunmu, Andre Kerbel, Adam Miller, and now you're talking about Jaden Epps, Skyy Clark, Sincere Harris, and down the line in a couple of years, Zizi Clark is already in the queue of coming into the program. I think of all those, me and Derek talk about all the time, John Gross years of struggling to land league guards. That is not a problem for Illinois basketball for the long term.
No, it's not. And Brad Underwood, he's got a pitch, and we've talked about this. It's funny because we've talked about this so much. Like when Illinois gets that NBA pipeline and starts to get that, like, it'll matter. And it's not the pipeline yet, but the one guy sure matters a heck of a lot in Ayo Dosunmu. And the way that Brad Underwood allowed him to thrive, helped him thrive with his coaching staff. I know those guys are gone, but the fundamentals of how Brad wants to use guards hasn't changed. And talking to Zizi, look, man, I guess I probably kind of dropped the ball a little bit looking back, but talking to Zizi on Thursday, I thought, I think I messaged you and Derek, and I'm like, it seems pretty good for Illinois, man. Like,
so I think he might be soon. You didn't go, hey, dude, you gonna commit? Can I get the scoop? You didn't do that whole thing?
I didn't, because I'm like, this dude's still a sophomore in high school. Like I always think of like early commits like him and Merez as the exception, not the rule. So it wasn't even in my mind. I just know I left, and I thought, well, it feels pretty good if you're Illinois. Like that sounds like he's interested. And you're right, we don't know as much about him, Jeremy, but physically, he looks good. I mean, he looks strong, muscular. He's tall enough. We'll see how this all plays out on, over the circuit in the next few years. But there's a reason he had those offers, Jeremy, and those offers don't lie. And Illinois getting this 2024 class built on April 18, 2022, man, it's a different world right now.
Yeah, I asked Travis Branham, who's seen Zizi, what he thought of him so far. And, it's a little bland at the moment, but Zizi is a skilled combo guard prospect with a sturdy build, and that is best when attacking the rim. He can make shots from three, has some shiftiness with the basketball, and is strong and can play through contact. He's also a talented passer with feel and vision, but it's an area for him to continue growing and expanding. Sophomore, sometimes you take a little bit of a risk, roll of the dice, but I think you see him already doing really well at some good programs. He played with his brother at Ensworth in Nashville for 12 games before they opted out for COVID. Then he goes to Windermere Prep down in Florida, which is a really good program as well. Averaged double-digit points there, 6.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. So, he's producing against some top-level talent, and you'd expect that to only increase. So is he going to be as highly ranked as Skyy? I don't know, but certainly seems like he's going to be a 4-star prospect, right? And you add that to what you already have at guard, and that's pretty impressive. You mentioned it, Joey. Illinois basketball has not gotten this head start of a class since, I would say, Tracy Abrams, Jeremy Richmond, that era about 10 years ago when when guys were always committing as freshmen and sophomores, that has not been the case here. It's been more like what Skyy Clark does, waiting till the spring, or, even like a Ty Rodgers waits until early in the fall to make their commitments. To get two guys of the caliber and offer list of Merez Johnson and now Zizi Clark is a heck of a start. And we'll get into Tim Anderson here in a little bit, but both those guys led by Tim Anderson. But Merez Johnson at the 4 is a top 40 prospect. He's got some Moussa Diabate to his game, where he's just this long, athletic guy with a great motor, can be great defensively. And then you add another league guard. 2024, as Derek wrote today, is going to be a big class, right? Just like 2022. So to get that head start, that looks like it's going to be another highly ranked class. But to have that already is huge. And the other thing I take away from that, Joey, is, as you were saying, Illinois now, to this generation of prospect, like coming through, is a good program, is a winning program that can produce a pro. Like, I would assume, like Zizi has probably not been watching college basketball all that long, but in that time, Illinois has been good. And so happens one of the players he really likes is Ayo Dosunmu. So you're starting to get rid of that era where Illinois basketball wasn't all that good to the first group of players that Brad Underwood was recruiting. Now you're a winning program. And what can you do when you're a winning program? You can sign a top 10 class like you have this class, and you can get a great start in the future class as well.
Yeah, I also want to point out with Zizi, and you touched it, we don't know what his ranking. Like, I think us sitting here saying like he's going to end up here or there, that's just not responsible, I think, probably on our end. I think, to your point, will he end up a 4-star? I would think that's probably in line. So, by the way, ho hum, another 4-star to Illinois. Like, this is becoming the rule, not the exception at this point.
Right. Even if we're talking like 80 through 120 or something, like if he's in that range, which I think would probably be a safe bet at this point, like that's a pretty good player. That's a really good prospect you're adding that 5 years ago fans would have thought, oh, this is our star. Like this is a nice piece you have lined up for 2 years from now.
Yeah. And I also want to point out, and just in talking to Skyy, you kind of know how that family, at least how Skyy is wired in terms of going to rehab the day after. So, I mean, just like the work ethic. I asked Zizi, I said, well, what's it like to see your brother, kind of to try to model a little bit of what he does? And he said, I learned everything from him. Having a big brother like him, I just model everything I do after him. It makes it easier. If your sophomore right now in high school is modeling work ethic wise off of Skyy Clark, again, we don't know where it's going to end up, but that's a pretty safe path to follow for a player. And we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, man, this is a really good point, Jeremy. Like, wherever, even if he ends up in that 80 to 100 mix, that's a really good player. Like that, that's a good player. It's really amazing. Think of where we were when we were podcasting a year ago, and it was like, oh no, like you had to double check to make sure the sky was still up in the air. Like there was some fair questions around how this was all going to get rebuilt with Brad Underwood, and what he's done is this. And he hired a really good staff with really good connections, and it's paying off in the recruiting world and on the basketball court.
If you're Tim Anderson's agent, do you knock on Josh Whitman's door today? I mean,
why not? Just walk in. They're not going to throw you out.
He was worth the wait, right? Like, I know the whole Alan Huss deal, maybe Illinois and Creighton ended up both positively after that. But Tim Anderson, man, in his first, 9 months here, as long as Haley Piper's been pregnant, has now landed Merez Johnson, the Clark brothers, and Ty Rodgers. This guy is connected. This guy is really connected, and it's not just Chicago. He is connected everywhere due to his, days training people, but also just seems like he's a very respected person in basketball circles, and seemed to work out coaching wise as well. Chester did a great job starting this class with Jaden Epps and Sincere Harrison. I kind of said, wrote this the other day, he kind of was the guy that just said, hey, it's going to be okay, by landing those two guys. And then Tim Anderson just comes and puts that class over the top, and hey, gets a start on class of 2024 as well. So I think he was number 5 in the class of 2022 recruiting rankings. Chester was at number 9. And Jeff's done a really good job. Jeff Alexander's done a really good job of, recruiting some of the guys in Illinois Wolves. Illinois didn't end up pushing for the Fears brothers, especially Jeremy Fears, but, Jeff's done a good job setting them up. So the staff looks like it's got the it factor in recruiting as well.
Yeah, no doubt it does, man. And just hearing the way that at least the Clark family talked about Tim. I mean, I think Kenny Clark said blood wouldn't make us any close. I mean, that's a great quote. Number one, we need to talk to Kenny Clark moving forward. But yeah, it's I almost forgot about the weight, like I almost forgot what it was last summer where Brad didn't seem bothered at all by anything. He kind of had his feet up, knowing what was coming. And
And a pocket ace, apparently.
Man, it's really impressive run here. Like not even just this week, this last month, this run dating back to when they put this all together. Chester, wasn't it July 4th for sincere? July 3rd? Maybe July 3rd, early in the morning, he came on. I think he was the first one, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then, or maybe Epps was the first. I don't remember. It's all, but man, like it happened quick and often. And now you're right. Like the perception of Illinois as a team that's good, successful, winning, and at their best, and I understand this wasn't always the case last season, they're fun to watch with the way that they trust their guards to do things and to get out and run and be active in transition. That's an attractive pitch if you're a coaching staff trying to get guards. And I think you've seen that play out in the way that they've landed some of these guys.
So, Joey, there are 4 prospects in the class of 2024 committed. Illinois has 2 of them. So, hey, what are we doing in 2023? Come on, Illinois, you're slacking there. It will be interesting, right? Like 2023 seems like it's going to be a smaller class, given what you have. Now that can change with attrition, whatever they add in the transfer portal as well. I think they'd love to add somebody who can be here for multiple years in the transfer portal at guard, but I would say they can probably be pretty picky with what they're looking at in 23, given what they have in 22. I think all of those guys are multi-year guys, most likely, especially with Skyy coming back from an injury. 2024, you kind of got your 4, you got a guard as well. So it doesn't seem like guard's going to be a huge need in that class. You do need a big, and that seems like it's going to be the most important piece, but also a wing who can shoot. You can always use more shooters. RJ Melendez and Luke Goody are probably the go-to guys there along with the guards, but getting another wing shooter would be important. And it seems like, for the long term, we'll see who that is in 2023, but in 24, man, Nodris Idrisitis is the most important guy out of Lamont there. James Brown, a center in the 2024 class as well, but it's going to be really interesting to see who the top targets become in the class 2023. It seems like Xavier Booker and Jazz Gardner are the top go-to centers there. Those are very highly ranked, highly recruited guys, top 100 guys. They've also shown a lot of interest in Akil Watson, Devin Royal, 2 wings. So just be interesting, Joey, to see where they kind of focus on in 2023, but seems like definitely a big and potentially another front court piece on the wing.
Yeah, I think you start looking at whenever it comes post-Kofi life, and will that be this coming year? Will it be the following? We don't know. But I think that is going to, you're going to have to replace him. And I say replace him, I mean, you don't, right? He's one of the best players to walk through this program, but you're going to have to get a big man. And what do they look for in a big man? I don't know. It seems like they very much like the shooting, the handling, the passing, the quote unquote modern big man. I've been meaning to ask Brad about this, Jeremy. If you also look at wings, I just keep going back to that weird, quiet Indianapolis game against Baylor, that national championship Baylor team. And I keep wondering how many times Brad replays that team in his head in terms of what they were able to do. Like that just feels like the blueprint's probably not the right word, but they have a lot of pieces that I think Brad is interested in. And you've seen him start to build that. You saw it like last year, the class of 2021 was the wing class, right? Yeah. And you saw them go out and they got some wings. Now this is the guard class, for a lack of better terms, plus Ty Rodgers, who kind of plays like a guard a little bit at times. So, then I think 23 makes sense to be a wing in a big class, and maybe not in that order. Maybe it's big and wing, but these things feel kind of cyclical a little bit. And you're going to kind of see, I think, maybe that play out in 23.
Yeah, and some in-state guys that they've shown interest in. Don't know if they're putting their foot to the gas though, right? Like Asa Thomas seemed like he was a priority earlier on. Is he going to continue to be a priority? He's got a lot of great options that he doesn't need to wait on Illinois if Illinois is unsure. Cam Christie, they just offered. Skinny out of Rolling Meadows, just like his brother Max, who's debating whether to come back for a sophomore year at Michigan State, but a very skilled player. And Ty Pence hasn't seemed like they put the foot down there, but the wing out of St. Joe Ogden, who can obviously shoot. So they got options. They're going to continue to look at options, but you feel like they're in a good place, right? Like Luke Goody's going to be here a while, I'd imagine. We'll see how much RJ Melendez grows for the next year. But yeah, now you're talking about Joey, like already stacking these guys behind guys as the development, right? And like, okay, whenever Melendez and Goody leave, you'll have this 2023 wing, or whenever the transfer and Dane Danger decide to move on or are done, here's Xavier Booker, Jazz Gardner in the wings. That's a sign of a good program. that's a sign of a really good program when you're able to start talking about those things. And it also shows that, Brad Underwood still believes in this prep building, right? Like he's going to go add transfers and he's going to have to, because there's going to be attrition, but he still wants to build this from the ground up with prep prospects.
Yeah, you have to, right? And you have to take it for what it is. And are you going to always have those guys for 3 or 4 years? No, we've seen that. No, you're not going to, but you can't just abandon it. And so I think you're seeing across the country, coaches find the balance between getting that foundation, getting your Coleman Hawkinses, your RJ Melendez's, your Luke Goodies, who are going to be around a little bit, and then supplementing those pieces to take you to that next level via the transfer portal. And remember, Jeremy, a lot of these transfer portal targets, there's connections from those prep recruiting days like that. And that's not just Illinois, that's everywhere. Like that matters quite a bit. So it's just be interesting to see how this all goes. I tell people this, and I know it sounds like we've repeated this 100 times. They're going to be all right. Like the boards are going to change. Like those things change for every program all the time. Brad and his staff have proven that they're bringing in talent. Like I get it. You follow the recruit for a little bit, you get excited, and then maybe something changes on one end or the other. But it's all, just look at these last couple classes. They land okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a condition of the Weber and Gross years, right? And
Sure,
I'm not trying to pick on those guys, but it was kind of like, if you don't land this guy, all of a sudden you're going to option C or D. When to give those guys credit, they didn't have the transfer portal to go to, right? Yeah, he's some grad transfers like Sam Maniscalco and Sam McLaurin you could turn to for some stopgaps, but you couldn't go to the transfer portal and land the quality or the quantity of players that you can land now. And Brad Underwood has that, but Brad hasn't gone wholesale with that. He still wants to build this. And the one thing about his staff is they have reach. They have far better reach and obviously far better closing skills and a product to sell. So that's the credit to Brad Underwood. And now his revamped staff is they're able to do all those things. If they don't have to go all in on the in-state kids, right? I mean, Brandon Lieb right now is the only in-state scholarship guy. I don't count Ty Rodgers because he's from Michigan. So like they have been able to thrive despite that, but they can still land an Io DeSumo. They can still land a Merez Johnson or an Adam Miller, right? Like they can still land the guys that they want. So that's a kudos to them. And I agree with you, Joey. Like through all of these roller coasters of is Kofi coming back? Is this person coming back? I keep coming back to this staff is so resourceful and it's proven themselves, especially Brad Underwood being here as long as he has. And now this staff, we're starting to see how they recruit. They've proven themselves that they have answers and that they're going to be all right. Like this is going to remain a really good program because they keep stacking talent and keep finding talent. And even if they miss on a guy or it doesn't work out or they back off a guy, they have a plan. There's somebody else they can go get.
Yeah, and I think it's important, the staff gets a lot of credit. They should get a lot of credit. But Brad's done a pretty good job of knowing his role in these recruitments and when to gas and how to – that home visit with Skyy Clark was a big deal. And Brad Underwood showing up in his living room was a big deal. Like that, I think – and I know that's not exclusive to Brad on the recruiting trail. Head coaches have to be involved or you're going to be playing from behind a little bit. But I think we've seen him really know when to take control and jump into these things. And that's important. And man,
But maybe that was an issue at times early.
could have been, sure, yeah. And I think the name of the game, is you pointed to, just stack talent, just stack talent. And you trust your coaches are good at developing. You can come up with the game plan. You don't get to this level without having some coaching acumen, right? Like you can figure out what to do with good talent, and just keep getting it, man. It's why Michigan is Michigan. And I don't think if I were a Michigan fan, I'd never be worried, because you're going to stack talent. Now, there's going to be some bumps in the road with that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it happens. And, college basketball, and especially the postseason, is a random experience. It just is. But you always err on the side of, we just have more dudes than you. And that's what you want to build. And that's what Illinois is building.
And the other part that I'm starting to notice here, Joey, is like, it's not just stack this like talent. It's not just like whatever talent you can find. Because to be honest with me, that was a lot of what Brad Underwood had to try and do early on, is just, hey, if somebody talented wants to join us, we got to get him on board. Like, Kofi isn't the ideal for what he wants, but he, changed his system, changed the way they played around this generational talent at Illinois, and have gotten the most out of him so far. But now you're starting to see, look, they got some intriguing fours for the long term: Coleman Hawkins and Ty Rodgers, right? Like, that has been an issue, position of issue for a long time for Illinois. You feel pretty good about those guys. And then Merez Johnson behind him, right? League guards. They got them in spades right now. Even though you're going through a huge transition of them, you have a lot of promising talent. And then you're starting to get longer, more skilled on the perimeter. You'd love to add another one, right? But like, you get RJ Melendez and Luke Goody, and then Ty Rodgers on the wing. You need to stack some more post talent. I think that's clear. But Dane Danger is an intriguing player. If you could Kofi for another year, you'd think you're lucky stars. But all Coleman these pieces, Hawkins. Coleman Hawkins. But like, all of these pieces are starting to fit together too, into a style of play that Brad Underwood clearly wants to play, which is longer, more athletic, more shooters, which is what they need, because it's showed up a lot in the NCAA tournament this past year. But you need to get longer, more athletic, and more versatile, and they're starting to do that.
Shot creators, people who can get to the rim. Like, you just look around the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of similar thumbprints on each team in terms of what they have and how they score the ball. So yeah, that's a really good point. I think we talked about it maybe in the last podcast we did, where it's not just, it is stacking talent, and you have to do that, but you do have to be cognizant of how that talent fits together. You're going to be, those growing pains might extend a little further into late January, early February than you hoped, if those pieces don't mesh like you hope they would. So yeah, I mean, we need to sit down with Brad, because there's so many questions every time we talk about this. Is just, I'm interested in his philosophy in that, and get the good dudes, get dudes who can play basketball, and make sure they fit stylistically with some of those other dudes that you have, and you're not being redundant a little bit here. And I think we've seen them do that. And obviously, like I said, wing class, guard class, like you're seeing this all kind of blend together a little bit.
And I think you got to have a certain personality to play for Brad Underwood, right? I think you have to have a certain coachability to play for Brad Underwood. And I think guys are starting to see that could pay off with Io, Kofi, some of these guys. Like, I'd even throw an Alan Griffin into that, like a guy who comes in here as an underrated recruit, develops into a really good player by his sophomore year, and takes a little bit of a star leap with Syracuse. I know there were some issues and he didn't get drafted, but I thought that was really good development of an Alan Griffin, even though it wasn't, linear all the time. So I think that's another credit to him. All right, Andres Feliz, fantastic fit.
So overlooked. Can we just really quick? That dude is so overlooked. And when you look at what Illinois basketball has turned into compared to where it was 4 years ago, Andres Feliz is just, and I get it. He was 2 years. He didn't make that NBA jump. He's playing professionally overseas. But dude, he was so important to what they still are right now.
I think I told you in Pittsburgh, if they had Andres Feliz, I think they might have still been playing after that weekend. Like, they needed that kind of guy, and they certainly lacked him. And that's what they've been trying to address in this 2022 class, is getting 3 guys who can maybe play that way. Well, Joey, this is another huge addition for Illinois basketball. No transfer updates in this podcast, but it's going to be fascinating, right? I know everyone's on pins and needles we're going to know a Kofi decision within 6 days of whether he's coming back to college or not. And then we'll see, like, you know, does he decide to go pro? Is he back with Illinois? Like, all those things we'll know. But, you know, that's a huge decision. And then we'll find out who they add on the wing, if they have to add somebody to replace Kofi or help replace Kofi in a rotation. So there's a lot there to play out, but pretty quiet on the transfer front, but got a couple busy weeks ahead of us again.
Yeah, it also seems like this staff is very happy operating quite quietly, right? Like they go about what they do. They're pretty linearly focused on what they're doing. And I'm fascinated what happens by next Sunday with Kofi, because there's so many dominoes, Jeremy, that can go one way or the other. I'm just,
well, and in this new era of NIL, right, where there's how much am I making, Illinois and the Illini Guardians? Like, how much am I making here? And what is Kofi's number, right? Is it what the NBA two-way contract is? Like, if he's got $500,000 guaranteed at Illinois, is that enough for him to come back to college? Or would he at that point just be like, no, I'm betting on myself. I'm done with the student life. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to go play professional basketball and make money. Is it 7 figures to come out? I don't know. I don't know those things, but we'll find out within 6 days at least. And I think that's huge for Brad Underwood to know that this isn't going to stretch into July or August like it has the last couple off seasons due to COVID. He's going to know by April 24th whether Kofi Cockburn is coming back, because he can't go back. Can't come back if he declares for the draft a third time. That's a rule. So he'll be able to then decide, if Kofi's back, okay, we can go get this extra wing, right? Or if Kofi doesn't come back, let's go try and get Ben Vanderplas, or let's try and go get Manny Bates, or whoever it is, however they want to add to that post rotation of Danger, Hawkins, and likely I would guess Bosman's, Verdonk, and Rogers.
Yeah. And I think I'd love to talk with Kofi about it. I think there's so much more layered, just achieving a dream of doing something professionally. Like, where does that play? And there's so many interesting pieces to his decision. And I know NIL is a big deal, and I think we'd all be foolish to look at this and say it's not. But I'm so curious how much more of just not even the whole just be a professional player, whether that's in the NBA or if there's a two-way contract and the door to the NBA is there. There's just, it's obviously on the court, Jeremy. It's the biggest thing moving forward for the next 6 days, and the fallout one way or the other beyond that. But it's just to learn a little bit more about Kofi. And I think we know him pretty well. I think that's also really interesting to me. So we'll see. I know for fans, it's going to be a long 6 days if it goes into this Sunday. But
it's a great thing to have this kind of, anticipation and anxiety, because 2 years ago, you wouldn't even have the chance to bring a Kofi Cockburn back for a 4th year. So it's a great, like, anxious issue to have at this point. All right. For Joey Wagner, I'm Jeremy Werner. Thanks for listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. As always, give us a follow, a rating, review, wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on our YouTube page as well. We post all our podcasts up there on the video side of things as well. And we're going to add some more to the YouTube page here coming up. And don't forget, you can sign up for a VIP membership to Illini Inquirer for just $1 as well. Everybody will be back talking about whatever Illinois basketball news comes up. Spring ball continues to go on. We got the spring game later this week. But until next time, everybody take care of each other. Have a great day. And we'll chat to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.